Hello, YouTube. I'll tell you about a very interesting place today. And some of you who listen to my videos, watch my videos, one of you might have worked there decades ago. And maybe you can add something to what I'm about to tell you. In a picturesque mountainous area, just 40 kilometers from Yerevan in Armenia, near the villages of Argov and Teger, there is the world's first radio-optical telescope, known in scientific circles by the concise abbreviation ROT-54, 2.6. Means a radio-optical telescope, and 54 means its diameter. It was designed and created by the brilliant scientist, radiophysicist, and engineer Paris Gerouni, after whom the instrument is called the Gerouni Mirror Telescope. So somewhere high in the mountains, among the picturesque landscapes, an abandoned giant is hiding, a huge telescope that once conducted secret tests. It was a symbol of scientific progress, opening new horizons of the universe. Built right in the rock, it is still amazing with its scale and uniqueness. But now, unfortunately, all this is being absorbed by nature. Roofs are deteriorating, buildings are being destroyed, and the world's first radio-optical telescope is falling victim to looters. And yet, it is guarded. This space-age town hides many secrets. And again, the entire territory is strictly guarded, and it is necessary to move along it very carefully so as not to attract attention. I've collected a few narratives of people who actually sneaked in. You can call them trespassers, explorers, but they went in. So what's on this territory? In the distance, there's a checkpoint, then residential buildings, an abandoned hotel on the left, a boiler room on the right. Next, you can see the former production building, the laboratory building at the back, and next to it, that huge telescope. The Argov radio-optical telescope, ROT-54, or also Gerouni Mirror radio telescope, is a radio telescope in Armenia, in that little town of Argov. It was built between 1975 and 1985 and was active between 1986 and 1990, before its use was halted. It was again operational until ceasing operations in 2012. Subsequently, there were attempts made to restore and restart the ROT-54. It was registered as a historical and culturally significant Armenian monument in the year 2002. The history of this space-age town, well, several decades ago, Armenia was a real center for the study of extraterrestrial civilizations in the Soviet Union. And the name of Paris Gerouni was inscribed in history as the creator of this world's first radio-optical telescope. He studied in Moscow at the Energy Institute, participated in the development of the first artificial Earth satellite. Having extensive experience, he was sent to Armenia for further work at the Burakan Observatory. It was the most advanced space exploration site. Meanwhile, in the 1970s, the Institute of Physics was allocated a vast territory on the slope of Mount Aragats. A reference center for antenna measurements was established there, and Gerouni was invited there, after some time. The Institute fulfilled important military orders, instructions, tasks, including those related to air defense, and also conducted various antenna tests. It was there that Gerouni proposed to create that first powerful radio-optical telescope with a diameter of 54 meters. With such a huge size, the telescope was stationary and even had to be located right in the rock. Gerouni was well aware that Moscow would not easily allocate money for such a huge telescope. There were already quite a lot of scientific projects in Armenia at that time, but with some tweaks, he still managed to find funds for his project. And the construction of the telescope itself began in 1981 and ended in 1985. The diameter of the telescope is really large. Even wide-angle cameras cannot capture it completely. Although the main purpose of the telescope was astronomical observations, there are suggestions that it was used for other purposes. As I said earlier, the Institute of Physics actively fulfilled military orders for the Ministry of Defense of the USSR, and like many things in the Soviet Union, this project could not but have a dual purpose. Science and defense have always gone hand in hand. The telescope could well be used in the military sphere to track US satellites, as well as to analyze objects that were important for the security of the USSR, including potential threats from space. I heard rumors that UFOs had been intensely studied there, but no available open source information decades after the USSR is gone. There is an abandoned hotel at the site. During the Soviet Union, this hotel was specially built for scientists who came here from different parts of the country to study space. The building was built on a grand scale for a large number of rooms. Now the hotel is completely abandoned and boarded up on all sides. There's also this Geruni sundial. This is a sundial that Paris Geruni brought there. This clock has 3 scales: horizontal, vertical, and spherical. One scale shows the month, the spherical one shows the zodiacal constellations, and at the very bottom it shows the time. The trespasser decided to check if they're working 2 days, and yes, they're still working. There's only a small margin of error. Telescope control point. It is not difficult. It was not difficult for the trespasser explorer to find the control point of the telescope. After all, a special bridge went directly to it from the antenna. The management building itself was built of bright pink local tuff. It looked very stylish and very Soviet. The first room, there is a restroom for scientists. There was a piano, a sofa, a wardrobe, and various books. And in the center of the room was a model of this town. Many of the details have been already stolen by someone. Next to the Geruni-built telescope, they wanted to build another one, only 2 times larger, 100-meter telescope. It was planned to have it built, but the collapse of the Soviet Union prevented this. Then there are technical rooms for mechanical drawings, and there were looted metal boxes lying nearby. Apparently, someone was looking for valuable parts in them, for example, silver or gold. Finally, there was the room where the telescope was controlled from. Just to guess, the central control panel was the main one, and the head of the control panel sat behind it. The side panels were duplicated, and his assistants were there, of this head honcho. There was an ignition key on the central console, and there was a video guide on the monitors where the camera showed what was happening in the telescope. In 2019, according to one of these trespassers, explorers, everything looked very different. For example, there was a ball in the corner to which it was possible to understand where the telescope beam was directed, but by now it was dragged away by 2024. There were large batteries which were also scrapped, and also for small things, curtains, a red carpet, and a clock were stolen too. There was another room nearby for the staff of the control panel. There were already 3 screens and a minimum of buttons. Perhaps they were just watching the operation of the telescope. Also in the main hall, clocks around the world, showing time around the world, hung on the main wall. And they showed the time in different countries of our planet, Moscow, Greenwich. Yerevan's clock was stolen. There was a duplicate electronic lock at the bottom. The place, of course, has suffered a lot over time. And through the next door, there was a passage to the underground funicular. That's the word they use in Europe, which led to the very base of the telescope. It was specially built for the convenience of moving scientists to the radio telescope. The explorer did not check if it was working, so he went down the huge stairs. Inside the telescope was built with the help of explosions. And then they made something like a concrete ball where aluminum shields were already inserted. The process was quite complicated, but the telescope was completed. There were heaters inside to heat the snow. By now they have been removed. The telescope is mounted on the powerful tubes. This whole ball is paved with aluminum mirrors, as thick as fingers, and there are 3,600 of them in total. They are made with an ideal accuracy of 70 microns. That is almost ideal. The quality of reception of radio waves depends on the quality of the surface of the shields. All the shields were polished here and then installed. They were made right in this town. They had their own production. The telescope was discontinued immediately after the collapse of the Soviet Union, like I said, and the money for the maintenance of the all-Union, meaning Soviet Union, research institutes outside of Russia had ceased to be allocated at all. Even Geruni said that everything is stalled and everything is standing, and that recent years have been very difficult, catastrophic for all scientific institutions. Look, hundreds, tens of thousands of Russian scientists moved away from the Soviet Union. There was a huge brain drain. Of course, it benefited countries they came to because Soviet Union had powerful scientific minds, sometimes constrained, of course, by ideology and so forth. But science was great. Well, in 1992, Geruni decided to build another facility, a huge solar power plant called Aref. From 1994 to 1996, the construction of the station was funded by British grants, but then it turned out, according to some, that the British simply wanted to take away all the rights to Aref at the end of the project, and Geruni, of course, could not allow this. The construction was stopped when the mirror panels were installed in 1996. Well, between 1995 and 2010, the telescope was modernized with new control computers and new feeds, and observations resumed in collaboration with the Astronomical Society of Russia and the National Technical University of Athens. In 2012, ROT 54 2.6 operations ceased again when the control arm failed, immobilizing the secondary mirror. The Armenian government could not recover the costs of repairs, and the research was completely mothballed. More than half of the buildings were left vacant. Future operations requires further upgrades to the control systems, comprehensive adjustments, replacement of outdated analog sensors with digital ones, and modernization of the data processing systems. According to some experts, these upgrades will cost approximately $25 million, and I'm sure Armenia doesn't have this money. Military Kung, in Russian military slang, Kung is standardized military vehicle module trailer system. There was a military Kung next to the solar station, which was for some reason directed at Yerevan. Everything inside had been stolen quite a long time ago, as before there was military equipment inside. And that place, like I said, produced mirrors to cover the telescope, but now it was closed from all sides. The explorer in question only managed to see huge machines through the window, and nearby there are former laboratory buildings. At first, the trespasser got into some kind of realm of crooked mirrors, as we say in Russian. All this glass was supposed to be installed at a solar power plant. And then he got into an Echoless or echo-missing room, previously unique experiments and various secret studies of military antennas were conducted in this room. It was intended to identify the parameters of various antennas without the influence of external factors such as sound, light, and so on. Thus, the echo-free room allowed for experiments and reliable data to be obtained. Not far from there, by the way, is the city of Ashtarak, or rather the Institute of Physics. This place gained fame due to its contribution to military science, and the achievements of the institute influence the methods of warfare. It is believed that thanks to these developments, it was possible to gain a serious advantage that helped the Soviet Union win the Vietnam War. The use of the S75 literally changed the course of the Vietnam War. In 1970 alone, more than 420 targets were shot down in Vietnam with the help of the S-75 M and SA-75. 51 of them were B-52 of the targets that were shot down. In total, in 1965, 1970 through 1973, the SA-75 complexes destroyed 1,300, according to other sources, up to 2,500 American aircraft and unmanned aerial vehicles. The S-75, I think the NATO name for this SA-2 guideline, is a Soviet-designed high-altitude air defense system. It is built around a surface-to-air missile with command guidance. Following its first deployment in 1957, it became one of the most widely deployed air defense systems in history. It scored the first destruction of an enemy aircraft by a surface-to-air missile with the shooting down of a Taiwanese Martin RB-57D Canberra over China in October of 1959. It was hit by a salvo of 3 V-750 missiles at an altitude of 20 kilometers. This success was credited to the Chinese fighter aircraft at the time to keep the S-75 program secret, so it was the Soviet weapons that shut it down. This system first gained international fame when S-75 battery using the newer long-range higher altitude V-750VN missile was deployed in the 1960 U-2 incident when it shut down the U-2 of Francis Gary Powers overflying the Soviet Union on May 1st, 1960. The system was also deployed in Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis when it shot down another U-2, piloted by Rudolf Anderson, overflying Cuba on October 27, 1962, almost precipitating a nuclear war. North Vietnamese forces used the S-75 extensively during the Vietnam War. Just a historical note, but maybe indications of weapons that were being developed at the site. There were an incredible number of antennas on the territory, by the way. They were still working quite recently, but now they are abandoned. Two major scientific research institutions of Armenia are based in Ashtarak. Institute of Radio Physics and Electronics, founded in 1960 as the research and development branch of the Armenian National Academy of Sciences, in the fields of radio engineering, automatic control, theoretical physics, solid-state physics, semiconductors, and superconductivity. And Mikhail Ter-Mikhaelian Institute for Physical Research, founded in 1967 as the physical research organization of the National Academy of Sciences, involved in the fields of laser physics, material science, and related areas. Well, I'm trying to understand why this dilapidated facility or town is being guarded so well? And what is it that we don't know? Because I think there is something down there that we're not privy to, and I'm not sure if it's the Armenian government, but it's not allowed to come out. And some UFO research had been studied there, but there's silence. And it's very interesting. Maybe we'll find out more in the future, but in conclusion, in the early 2000s, being already at the advanced age, Geruni devoted himself entirely to the study of history. And in 2008, on the threshold of his 75th birthday, he was gone. Paris Geruni left a rich legacy of knowledge. But that's it. Again, there was UFO-related research, and I suspect it was removed to Russia. Maybe at the time the USSR disintegrated. Results of those tests, experiments, observations, and who knows what else. Maybe it was just another secret military R&D. You know what? We may never find out. But that's what I wanted to let you know today. Another interesting remnant of the old Soviet Union, another secretive place. I will tell you more stories about such sites in the former Soviet Union, which would be Russia today, Belarus, Ukraine, of course, Central Asia, Armenia, Georgia, and so forth. And if you like my research, please kindly support me. You'll find the links in the description to this video. Please tell others about my work. Please like my videos. And thank you for all your attention.